hey, we've been talking about the ebb and flow all week. Hey, the ups and downs. We're coming down here. Homecoming's going to be a hostile environment. We had a 2.5-hour bus ride. Kids showed up. We got 25 minutes to warm up. And we said, hey, you know what? We couldn't have started worse. And we should have been in a better position than we were. And our defense showed up. That's a really good offense with a monstrous O-line. And our freaking front played their tails off. And I'm proud of them. And we made plays when we had to.
It's crazy. What the hell? Absolutely ridiculous.
We'll have to check the spot.
This was a statement. A lot of people have said that this would be our statement game, and that statement proved to the whole entire state that Southington is no team to mess with.
Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to the Meat Grinder, your weekly dose of high school football in Connecticut. And I'm your host, Sean Patrick Bowley. With me is Peter Perguaga. Peter, what's up?
Nothing, just recovered. I think I've fully recovered from this past weekend. But, it is what it is.
At the top of the show, you heard from the capper to the Alliance Bouillabaisse, the Alliance Hullabaloo, the Connecticut Football Alliance main event. Number 1 Greenwich versus number 1 Southington at Cardinal Stadium. And Greenwich was up 21-0. But Southington walked out, maybe flew out of Greenwich with a 29-28 victory. You heard a little bit from our buddy from last week, Mike Drury, who we weren't the kiss of death, Pete. And then, of course, you heard a little bit from their star running back, Lincoln Cardell. But a guy named Anderson, he was the guy who put the capper on this great comeback. 21 down, Pete. You were there. What happened?
I think you got a little ahead of yourself. You said number 1 Greenwich versus number 1 Southington.
Oh.
I think you just got a little bit ahead of yourself. But
yeah, of course
that was a wild game. I mean, it was incredible. Southington showed up late. They spotted them a 21-0. They spotted Greenwich a 21-0 lead. And then all of a sudden, everything just clicked. And they came back. Evan Anderson, what a day. 9 catches, 201 yards, a touchdown. He threw for the touchdown with less than 4 minutes left, and then capped it off with a 2-point conversion to give them the 1-point lead, which they held on to win. I mean, just a wild homecoming at Cardinal Stadium on Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was a capper to what was just an otherworldly week. I think we all said it at one point or not on Twitter. Obviously Southington with their big win on Saturday afternoon. I was at Massac, St. Joseph hanging on by the hair of their chins to win that game against Massac. They were up big in that one as well. And then the night before, obviously, you had Killingly hanging on. They rallying back to defeat Bloomfield. You had Shelton looking like they were on the ropes, rallying back to beat Windsor. And then you had New Canaan hanging on for dear life to beat Fairfield Prep. It was a wild weekend, and we talk about the Alliance and kind of how it was a little bit crazy, but last week, it kind of lived up to the promise that Al Carbone and his minions, his partners, his league partners have put together for us. Pete, what'd you think?
It was a wild weekend. I mean, it was everything that we thought it would be. It was everything that we talked about on this show, on the Pick'em show. Great matchups at the top, right? Not every matchup was a great matchup. Like, let's be honest with you. There was 31 games or maybe more.
No,
more
there were
I think it was
41 games.
Yeah,
41.
I think it was 31 CCC, whatever. But, not every game was great. Like, let's, be honest here. Let's not let the top games take away from the overall thing. But the top games were great. Even Maloney going down to Darien and beating the Blue Wave was huge for that program. And it was just great. I mean, every game was, I'm sitting there scrolling on Twitter, Maloney's up 7. I'm sitting there. I'm like, oh man, Windsor's beating Shelton. Oh man, Prep and New Canaan are tied. Yeah. Oh man, Bloomfield's up 2 scores on Killingly. I'm like running up and down the sideline, like going over scores with people. It was chaos.
It wasn't a good night for hyperbole, Pete. Our buddy Hyperbole last week. We had Shelton being the best Shelton team since Danny O. We had Killingly, the best Killingly team in 20 years.
Best ECC team.
That's right. The best ECC team in 20 years. I didn't bring up Darien. Excuse me. I didn't bring up Maloney versus Darien because our guest today, we're going to talk about. We're going to talk all about it. Is Kevin Frederick, the Class L championship coach from last year, and this was a big one for him. We all knew that he was going down there. This was going to be the one where they stake the flag of the CCC and basically show it off for everyone can see that they have arrived as a program. Certainly, they did that with a 21-9 victory over the Blue Wave, and that's 2 losses in 3 games for Darien, but a great performance by Maloney, and it was looking like a great night for the CCC overall. But let's take a look at the entire Alliance scoreboard here, Pete. The CCC joined the fray with 31 games out of the 41 overall, and wasn't really a great night overall. Yeah, they had the big Maloney win and the big Southington win, but FCAC was 8-4 against the CCC. The SWC was 5-3 against the CCC. Against the ECC, they actually salvaged a 2-2 tie with Killingly beating Bloomfield, but Waterford came back to beat Rocky Hill, and Glastonbury defeated NFA, and Berlin defeating Fitch. So that was a 2-2 tie, and then only on the other side, the SCC beat them up too, 5-2 overall. And obviously there, Shelton coming back to Windsor was huge. So it was looking like a great night for the CCC, Pete, but when you look at the overall scoreboard, the CCC, 13 wins, 23 losses. They're right down there at the bottom. Not quite the ECC at 6-11, but I don't know, Pete. It's kind of a mixed bag there for the conference.
Yeah, I mean, overall, obviously the CCC is so gigantic, but overall, not ideal. But those top flight wins, those are the teams that we're going to be talking about come the end of November. Come December. So I think it's huge for them as a conference anyway, because I think when we get to the playoffs, we're going to be talking about Southington and Double L. We're going to be talking about Maloney and L. Windsor obviously kept it close. Bloomfield kept it close. Those are teams that are going to be in the playoff hunt. Those are teams that we're going to be paying attention to.
The FCAC 19-9 overall. They had a pretty big week. I think they were 10-6. The SEC, they came into the weekend. They're 9-10, and they won 10 games and lost only 5. They have the best week overall. The CTC, Pete, 3-2. They came in, I think, 1-2, and I think they went 2-0. Yeah, they went 2-0, 600. So you can say the CTC is in second place. The SWC came in 500, left 500. It was 6-6 in week 1 or so, and then 6-6 last week. We talked about the CCC and the ECC, man. Oof. Thank God for Killingly, because that was pretty rough for the ECC.
Yeah, it looks great. I mean, it's kind of nice to see some of these opponents playing each other. It'd be nice if there were other conferences who were in the fray, and I don't want to get into that again. But I feel like they were missing out of the party. And, who doesn't want to see Ansonia Killingly in the regular season, or Ansonia Bloomfield, or Cromwell Portland, or Naugatuck playing against Maloney or Darien, or a really good L school, in the regular season. I think it helps us out tremendously in our position to sit here when we do the rankings and the poll and the predictions to know how these teams match up. We're hearing a lot of great things about Ansonia, and rightfully so. I mean, they look good, but we're not going to know anything until we get to the playoffs.
100%. They won't play anybody, especially now in a weakened Class S. They won't play anybody. They'll play Bloomfield, maybe, hopefully. But a lot of those teams are NVL teams.
Yeah.
Cromwell Portland's on double S. Barlow, double S. So yeah, listen, I love the idea of the Alliance. I'm glad they scaled it back a bit, because given a lot of those teams too many games, Shelton stacking their schedule up, it's a little bit ridiculous. They need to figure out a way to balance these things out. I think it's good if you have one tough game, go down the standings and match them up. And I don't know about 2. I would still think we need to reconstitute the leagues here statewide. That's just my opinion, but that's for a whole nother discussion. I thought the Alliance did a nice job. Al and the guys are all over Twitter just declaring how great they were, and they should take a bow this week. They did a nice job, but guys, calm down a second, please. Yeah. Oh my goodness. I mean,
it was a fun weekend. It was a fun weekend.
Taking hosannas, taking bows. I mean, geez, Al. Oh my goodness. So with all that happened.
Wait, is that Al who runs the CT Football Alliance Twitter account? I didn't know that.
Well, there's a reason why he's leading the header on those Alliance graphics. It's the Al Carbone Alliance, if he would allow it. But everyone's taking a bow. It was pretty funny on Twitter. Like, Joe, thank you so much. Thank you guys, so great. Everyone, all right, thank you. Cut and jumps on the back. Listen, they did a nice job. Really,
it was great.
The big reason why it was this Alliance matchups were so important. We talked a little bit about it last week. Is for the reason we just discussed with Ansonia. Because of 6 divisions, now you really don't play these teams. You don't get a chance to play these teams that are in other divisions now. Like Shelton's in L. They're not going to play Southington in double L, and so on. You're getting a lot of those. You're going to have teams missing each other, where in the old system, we didn't have that opportunity. So you had an opportunity to match them up a little bit. So, you're not going to have that. That's a shame, but it's good to know for this because of how it impacted the top 10. Let's take a look at this top 10, Pete. It was a mess, as predicted. Number 1 by the hairs of their chinny chin chin. The new number 1 ranked team is Southington, but barely. They were one of 6 teams with first place votes and one of 3 teams with 6 first place votes. And they received 592 points overall, just beating out number 2 New Canaan with 6 first place votes, but only 590 points. That means 1 extra voter had New Canaan ranked just below Southington. That's how close it was. Shelton comes in a distant 3rd, even though they also had 6 first place votes. The Gales only managed 549 points. Number 4 is Maloney. They lose their first place vote from last week, yet jump Killingly, which almost got ran out of its own building. They come in at number 5 with 2 first place votes.
Too many.
Number 6 is Greenwich. Even they got a first place vote. Did someone miss
One
a
too
game?
many.
Number 7 is Trumbull. They get a first place. You get a first place. I get a first place vote. St. Joseph at number 8. They drop despite being 3-0. They don't get a first place vote. Finally, number 9 is Ansonia, and number 10 is West Haven. My goodness, that is a wacky poll. So I don't know what to make of this top 10. I don't know. It's just, I guess that's why we do this throughout the season. We have a poll at the end, huh? And we have a couple of state championships to deal with.
Yeah, it's never easy. I know we talk about it this week. Definitely made it harder. It's interesting though, because the Greenwich first place vote, I'm just going to ignore and pretend like it didn't happen. Killingly picked up a second one. Look, I get it. We know who is one of the people who votes Killingly number 1. It was made public. He wrote about it. And that's fine. But Killingly didn't, and I'm not knocking them, but Killingly didn't do anything this weekend to make me put them higher or put them lower. They stayed the same in my ballot because they were losing by 2 scores and they had to come back and win. That's great. I voted Shelton 1 last week and kept him at 1 this week, right? Not ideal that they almost lost, but there was nothing to me that clicked that said, well, now I need to pull Killingly so far up my rankings. So that one's really a head scratcher to me. I do think Killingly is a really good team, but struggled against Bloomfield, who is a good S program. There's nothing wrong with that, but I was expecting more from Killingly if I was going to move them up in my ballot. Trumbull getting a first place vote is very intriguing. It was not me. I still have Shelton 1. I've had Trumbull high in my rankings all year. Like I talked about on the show, I like teams that bring a lot of people back. I think it gives them an edge up at the beginning of the year. But I'm interested to see, right? Because Dariene's lost twice. a lot of people, I mean, St. Joe's is just fights and grinds, and they just do such a great job in winning these games in a total team effort. But there are people talking, hey, is Trumbull the second best team in the FCAC heading into last week, right? Well, if that person believed that Trumbull was the second best team in the FCAC and Greenwich went down, and they still think that the FCAC is the best conference in the state, well, then I understand them giving Trumbull a number one vote. I'm just trying to understand, you know what I mean? And then with the three teams up top, a lot of people with New Canaan, they love their defense. They're still very, very, very questionable about their offense, but this is New Canaan. We still haven't seen them fully healthy. So, it's impressive that they're here at 3-0. I do not believe Ty Groff is coming back this weekend against Bridgeport Central. So I think we're going to see Ty Groff in week 5. And then I think we'll be able to figure out kind of how good this New Canaan team is. And Southington being number 1, I mean, first time since 2015.
Yeah, first time since they went into that famous 1-2 Darien game, the one we actually kind of talked about a little bit last week, where Mark Ivanchek, it was billed as Mark Ivanchek versus Jay Rose. And it was 1-2. They had the number 1 ranking. They had won the last 2 Class AA championships, or the Class AA large, I should say. And then they Darien smoked them. And that was the last time we'd really heard from Southington for a while. Now they are back at the top. The first time then it starts small like this, right? You get a big win. Okay, you get a little confidence, and then you start building up. They got a long way to go.
They look good, though. I mean, they got guys all over the field. I'm going to go out on a limb here. This might bite me.
Oh no.
They look like the most complete team that I've seen so far this year.
Really?
They do. They do.
What happened at the start of the game, Pete? 21-0.
They got 2.5-hour bus ride. They only got 25 minutes to warm up. But I'm telling you, man, Evan Anderson's a baller. Rashad Williams, who only had 1 catch in the game, he got hurt. He's really good at 4 touchdowns last week. Lincoln Cardillo is he's just awesome. And then CJ DiBenedetto, the quarterback, he took a beating on Saturday. He was limping getting to the huddle, not as drastic, but it reminded me of Byron Leftwich getting carried down the field by his offensive lineman in the bowl game when he was at Marshall. CJ got beat up in that game, and he just kept getting up. Their defense looked great. They ran the ball against Greenwich. They threw the ball against Greenwich. They made great special teams plays against Greenwich. All facets of the team. Southington looked awesome from top to bottom. They got to clean up a lot of those penalties. I think Coach Drury will say they made some dumb mistakes in that game. But, man, they just look so complete. It was so impressive.
As for Greenwich, great start, but not a great finish. I mean, Jack Wilson, those guys, they had a chance to recapture, I guess, the lead, but they got stopped on downs. It was well short, Pete. But I think afterwards, you talked to Anthony Morell a little bit. I think afterwards it was kind of more of a sigh of relief. It's not like it used to be where you lost once and you were starting to worry about whether you were going to be able to go to the playoffs. Now you're a little bit more relaxed. It gets the pressure off a little bit. Greenwich, I think they got a lot of pressure down there. And even Anthony Morello, after the game, talked to you about it and said, you know what? We're fine with this for now.
Yeah, we have an L, but in some ways the pressure's off. And now we can just stop worrying about everything and having the weight of the world on their shoulders and just play football. And, turn the page next week.
So pressure's off a little bit in Greenwich. I don't see them missing the playoffs. I think they're good enough. They're going to win enough games. They're going to get in. A lot of these teams are going to get in no matter what happened. I mean, it was pretty much that was the case, but you start to worry about whether they have what it takes. I mean, Killingly going down. Let's talk about Killingly really quick. I mean, Bloomfield came in there, man. They did not care that they might be the best ECC team in 20 years. Bloomfield certainly looked like the team they were 20 years ago, with Pinnock and all those guys. They came out fired up. It was 14-0 early, and then 22-7 when one of the Kerr brothers, the Kerr twins, was Davian with an E, had a couple of their touchdowns, they put them up 22-7, but from then on, it was all Dreibholz. Killingly is known as the RPO, run people over. Forget that stuff. All of a sudden, it's Air Neal as they had to come all the way back. Soren Reef ripped off a huge run to get him into scoring position. Noah Colangelo. They go for 2, don't get it. So now they're still down. They got to get a fumble. and then they go right back down again and score. And it was a 28-22 comeback victory, and very impressive. Listen, Killingly, it was just like coaches say all the time. You need a little bit of adversity, and then they certainly stared adversity in the face, and won. So that was a huge win for Killingly.
Yeah, adversity is going to pay off at the end of the year, but for the poll's sake, not great.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they dropped. So I think enough people dropped them.
But they added a first place vote.
Yeah, they added. I mean, I'm thinking one of my ECC guys out there trying to drink the Kool-Aid a little bit. Moving on to the other big game of the week was Shelton's comeback win over Windsor. I mean, they did everything they could to throw this game away. At this point, Danny O's team, they would have crushed this team 49-zip. Shelton turned the ball over. Opening kickoff, our guy, David Dojlicko. Everyone and their grandmother tell me how to pronounce his name last week. Dojlicko fumbled on the opening kickoff, but he came back with a vengeance. They were down 19-7 at the end of the third quarter. He scores to start the fourth quarter, and then he redeems himself with a scoring again, 6:22 remaining. But Shelton almost threw this game away too, because Windsor comes back down the field. They have the freshman quarterback, AJ Robinson, who throws a pick off to Ricky Fiola. But when Fiola caught the interception, his momentum carried him to the end zone, but the referees ruled he did it intentionally, and they called it a safety. It's only a 1-point game. Shelton defense had to show up one more time. We know how good they are, or can be, when they're not getting short fields against them. So they stay 3-0, and I love that picture of the coaches there hugging each other after that game. That was a big win for Shelton, man. But get out of there and get home. Beating Windsor is no joke.
Yeah, that's literally just thought everything was just going to explode this weekend at halftime of a lot of these games. And, like I said about Killing, this is awesome for them, right? They faced adversity. It's going to pay off as we move forward throughout the year, but big sigh of relief, a nice relaxing bus ride home, I would imagine, for Coach DeFelice. A big sigh of relief, though.
Yeah, him and Stanko on the sidelines hugging each other because Stanko looks thrilled, the defense coordinator. Another big one, you mentioned it a little bit, New Canaan, Fairfield Prep set an offense back a few years. Or was it a defensive battle? I mean, I was there, I don't know. But it looked like there were a lot of turnovers and a lot of big moments there. Maybe it was a defensive battle. But it was ugly. 7 turnovers combined. But once New Canaan went up 14-7, their defense kind of held back. They stopped Prep twice, I believe, in the late in the game, especially they getting the pick off Tucker Mulligan, basically ending the game. And a lot of people like New Canaan at number 2. I don't know too much. I mean, we haven't seen any offense from them, Pete, since Drew Pine was at quarterback back in 2019.
Yeah, it's I don't know what's going on there. Like I said, I mean, Groff we have not seen him yet, but we've also never seen him in a gameplay quarterback at the varsity level. So we're just saying that he's going to be back, but we don't know how big of a difference he is going to make for this offense. But I will say, I love this quote from Lou Marinelli. Yeah. I don't know if you saw this.
I see it.
I had my fingers crossed, my toes crossed, everything at the end. It was a great defensive effort. I mean, number 2 team in the state can't be crossing fingers and toes, but look, survive in advance, right? Isn't that what Jimmy V said? Survive in advance, go to next week, try and figure it out during the week. If there's any team that's going to make adjustments and get better as they go, it's going to be New Canaan. They have an unbelievable coaching staff, and God, just figure out that offense. Maybe, I don't know. I know Pine's got brothers, but I think they're older. Yeah, so yeah. I don't know who's coming through. Is there another O'Connell? What about a La Police? Is there anyone paging anyone?
Fairfield Prep has the same type of issues. Their offense has not been great. It wasn't great last year. They showed signs, but they need to get some more scoring. But I mean, again, that's a good defensive effort. I think you saw 2 defenses going at it. New Canaan's just been a little bit better defensively for a longer haul. But finally, the game I went to on Saturday, the one that kept me from Greenwich, because it was a coaches convention at the St. Joe game. We had Craig Bruno. We had Joe Lato, the old Massett coach. We had Randall Bennett the Cromwell Porton coach, who, as you know, modeled his 2-platoon system, Class S, 2-platoon system on St. Joseph, and he was in the house too. Lots of other guys there I probably don't remember, but you know, it was funny. St. Joseph was doing what it did the first 2 weeks of the season. You know, you had Hutchinson catching passes, you know, setting up touchdowns. You had Will Singewald. You had people telling you how to pronounce his name. You had him throwing touchdown passes. The defense was playing great for this third straight week. You had Riley Jordan having a big rushing day. They were putting Massac to sleep. That offense that you saw against Trumbull for Massac, non-existent, basically, for the first 3 quarters of this game. Then all of a sudden, right after Sean Curley catches this 20-yard touchdown pass from Singewald, all of a sudden, Massac finally wakes up. Gavin Walker scores to pull within 24-14. And then Walker again with the 5-yard run to get them within 24-21. And then they played a little defense, Massac, and got the ball back for a chance to win the game outright. They tried a little bit and then decided, you know what? We're going to try. It was just about under 2 minutes left, I believe. And they said, you know what? We're going to kick this. We're going to try for the field goal, play for overtime. And the freshman, I mean, where do they get these kickers from? Massac. Zylik, the freshman, gave it everything he had. It needed to go 41 yards. It went 40 yards and 2 feet and hit the crossbar and fell out. And, you know, an amazing finish. I almost left the game, Pete, to go see you down at Greenwich. And because it was 21-0, I'm like, you know what? I'll just stay here. And I caught that fabulous ending. And St. Joseph, 3-0. Here's Coach Joe Dellavecchia he's thinking they're going to go for it all the way.
The last drive, I mean, we were just trying to keep everything in front. And, you know, I thought they were going to go for the win the whole time, to be honest with you. And then when they lined up for the field goal, I knew the kid was a good kicker. And, you know, when he kicked it, I looked like, I think that's going to be short. And the guys in the booth are saying that's short. And it just was short by a football, maybe. But it hit the bar, yeah. It could have went either way, I think. But, you know, it was a little farther than you thought because he was on an angle. So, you know, the kid made a good shot at it. You know, I thought we had the block. I thought we got in there pretty clean. And it was a bad snap. It was a soft, high snap. So I thought we were going to get it, and we didn't. But, you know, luck was on our side there, I guess.
And on the other side, here's Steve Christie, who is just, I don't know how to describe it, Pete. He is a piece of work. We love him to death. Christie, great job. I mean, he was just so proud of his team. But you have to hear a little bit of snippets here about our conversation. All I wanted to know is whether he had in mind to go for it, go for the touchdown, or play for the field goal. And then I was even talking about, I even saw right after he kicked it, I looked and saw in the background actually that the wind was blowing the other way. Anyway, it turned into a mess. Here it is.
I'm so proud of them. I know everybody says that it's a cliche. No, it's real. You know, this is a team that I love, and we love each other. Hey, 2 top 10 teams we just played the last 3 weeks, toe to toe with both of them. One we gave away, this one we couldn't quite get. But the resiliency that it's just amazing. I'm so proud of them. And hey, we're gonna lie in the weeds right now. We'll lie in the weeds. We'll see you all again though.
Steve, your thoughts playing for the field goal? You're going into the win. Just did you?
No, we weren't, Sean. Actually, we looked at the sticks and we weren't really going into the win. But I got you. You could say that. We were at 4. He was banging 40s all game. He's got the leg. He's got the leg.
Well, I mean, you look like you were playing for.
Plus, it was 4th down.
You were playing for. That's true. You were playing for the field goal, though. You guys were setting it up.
Right there we were. We were trying to take that game to overtime because it was a little different. We definitely had the momentum. The wind is so shifty here. You really can't go by those flags. 1 second is going this way. Next second is going that way. We actually took the wind in the 4th quarter. So if you notice, we kicked off into the wind to start the second half so we could get the wind 4th quarter. By the time the 4th quarter rolled around, the wind kind of played with us. Do we take another shot at a quick out? He drops it. We don't get a chance. I'll take my chance right there.
Well, when did you try? You were trying to go for a TD, yeah?
Of course.
When did you decide? Like, you know what?
About 20 seconds to go, I'm like, let's kick a field goal. Let's get a field goal. And you know, Sean, at the point of the wind and all that, at that time, we're not really looking at any. There wasn't a prevalent wind today. And at that time, we're really not saying, hey, we can't kick into that. We trust this kid's leg. This kid is going to be, you're going to be reading about this kid for 4 years. This kid, Jackson Dojlicko, is special. And, you know, I feel bad. I hope that he doesn't feel bad that I put him in that situation. I put him in a tough situation week 1 as well. You know, kick off deep, he hit the front line. That kid's an all-state player. He will be. He's a tremendous player. I don't second guess that at all. Would it fall short by a yard or two?
It hit the post.
Ah, Sean. Jesus Christ, Sean. All right, I shouldn't have kicked it then, right? Yeah. It hit the post, Sean?
I wasn't.
It hit the. Oh my God! Thanks, Sean. No, we're doing that 9 out of 10.
I wasn't arguing
with you. I'm not saying that either.
I'm not saying.
Shawnee, I'm good.
I'm just saying.
I'm good.
I was just trying to figure out when you were deciding.
About when I saw the clock winding. By the way, remember we used all our timeouts on D.
I'm not.
And no, I'm saying bad. I'm not saying bad.
Pete, I don't know what to tell you about Christy, but he's one of a kind, man. One of a kind.
He's the best. He is the absolute best. He is the best.
Sean, don't tell me that, Sean. Oh man.
No one loves his guys more than Steve Christy loves his team. And they were right in it. I mean, they were right in it. I mean, they could, God, I don't even want to bring up the wind, but if the wind blows the different way in 2 games, they're sitting at 3-0, you know? But you know, just the cards were not dealt that way, but they're 1-2. They're still in it.
Oh yeah.
You know, they're not gonna. I hope they don't beat themselves up too much over it.
Christy
they're gonna
vowed they
be
would be
fine.
back. Christy said and then they will. They're in double M.
Yeah, they're gonna be fine.
These aren't death knells anymore. Like you lose 2 games. All right, now there's some urgency, but you know, you still kind of have you see the way the standings play out. You still will find yourself with destiny in your hands if you keep winning. 2 losses, maybe even 3. Just depends on who's in your division. Again, that's why I can't stand the 6 divisions. It's just a mess. There's strong, there's weak. But Massac will be back. They're a good team. I still vote them in my top 15.
Me too.
You know, yeah, I think I put them at like 13 or so like that. So, you know, let's take a look at the 2 top 10 polls now back to back. The Day came out with theirs right as we were recording last week, so we didn't have their opening poll there. But let's take a quick look at that. What do you think of this? I mean, we have Southington at 6. We had Southington at 1. They got Shelton at 1, which is what you and I both have. We kind of looks like we get more of the Day poll.
Yeah, I you know, some would say that we're as smart as coaches. But no, it's a good poll. I know Trumbull wasn't in the opening poll last week for the coaches. They love West Haven. Maloney even got a first place vote in that poll. So it's really intriguing. I mean,
I think I like it better, Pete.
You'd like it better?
I think it matches more what I think.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. And I don't know. I mean, I know who the coaches are who vote in the poll because it's on the day, you can see, but it's always like interesting. Like, I wonder how they vote. I wonder, do they give love to their conference? Do they vote for their own teams? You know, you talk to coach. I don't vote for my own team, you know, so that's intriguing with me about that. I don't feel like, I don't know. I feel like there could potentially be biases involved in the coaches poll, though. I did kind of vote like it more myself anyway.
I think St. Joseph deserves a little bit more credit than everyone's giving them. I don't know how they're 8 in ours, but I think St. Joe belongs up there at number 4 at least.
But St. Joe's got love after their first win over Darien, and neither of us gave them any love in the top 15. Right. I mean, I do have St. Joe's in my top 10 now, but I think I have them at 9. I'm very intrigued by them. And look, credit to them. I'm 0-3 picking in games for St. Joe's this year. So I think I'm just going to keep picking against them.
So with that said, let's talk a little bit about that Maloney game versus Darien. And our guy, your guy, has been dying to get on. It's Kevin Frederick. Joining us on the show is the champ, the defending Class L champ, Maloney, coming off a big, huge win, massive win for the program and striking a blow for the CCC again. It's Kevin Frederick of Maloney. Coach, You've been dying to get on. You're like, what do I got to do? I won a state championship, no love, not even preseason. And I'm dying to get on. I told Pete, beat Darien. We'll get him on real quick. And here you are. Congratulations, Coach. Welcome.
Thank you. I officially have made it amongst the elites in Connecticut. When you get asked to be on the meat grinder, you've made it as a Connecticut high school football coach. So I'm pumped that you guys are having me on here. I love your show. I love what you guys do for Connecticut high school football. There's no one better than GameTimeCT. Love what you guys do. So appreciate you guys for having me. Looking forward to chatting with you guys.
Coach,
I want to cut all of that.
Put us, Coach. Hold on. You got to put us. You got to tick the box there on week 3 on the board behind you. Make sure meat grind. Get on meat grinder is the goal you check off for the kids.
Yeah, I'll have to add that to the board for sure.
I was going to say, I think I want to cut that for like an ad. What do you think, Sean?
I think that's a great ad.
We could send that to the advertising department.
Yeah. Coach, anyway, just congratulations. This was a game I'm sure you were looked at for a long time. And you mentioned it afterwards that this was kind of a big statement game. Yeah, you win your state championship last year. But you really need to kind of keep the momentum going. Just walking off the field after a really just thorough defensive performance. How did you guys and the kids there feel walking off there and going home with a victory over Darien?
Yeah, I mean, it was a special night for us, obviously. When we won the state championship last year, we always try to think of ways that we could top it and get better each year. And, when we saw Darien on the schedule, it was something that, we've hoped for, obviously, to be in the talks amongst teams like that. Because when they put together that alliance game, they're trying to match you to comparable teams. So when you get matched up against a team like Darien, it was a proud moment just to be on the schedule with them. And then now to even take it a step farther, to go down there and to get a win against one of the best, teams in Connecticut historically, at least for the last, 15, 20 years. I mean, it's a great thing for the kids, just for the kids to go down there and play in an environment like that too. It was just from when we left to the end of the game till we got home, the whole thing was fantastic for the kids. I'm glad they got to experience something like that. We're obviously off to a good start and we just want to keep it going.
Did you need much pumping up to get them ready for this game, or how did you guys approach the game going into this week?
Well, I always say this, it kind of sounds cliche a little bit, but I mean, when we prepare for any game, we're going to prepare for like it's the state championship game. That's just what our mindset is. And we put a lot of effort into the game plan and the film watching and the preparation, obviously a little more detailed, playing against Darien that week. So every game we're trying to prepare and get pumped up as much as possible. It doesn't take much though, when you got to go down there and you're playing in front of those fans and the atmosphere that was there. The kids were locked in, dialed in. I thought we did a good job too. We left the school at 2:00 and we went down to a state park down close in Westport. I think it was called Sandy Beach State Park, and they were great with us. And we ate down there our pregame meal. So we had plenty of time to stretch, get off the bus. It wasn't like we rushed off the bus and played. So it was the whole thing was great, and it was good. Like I said, a good experience for the kids to see something like that. We went and ate lunch on the beach, and some kids saw seagulls for the first time. So that was fun. And
wow.
To get the kids in that type of environment, it's just a cool thing for the kids to experience, and just happy to be a part of that.
I'm sure Westport was thrilled to help you guys out any way they could, knowing the rivalry with Darien. But, just tell me about some of your kids. I mean, obviously Gonzalez had a huge game. A lot of guys had a huge game. Bugansky was the guy everyone kind of had on their radar. But, you did lose some great players last year. And what did you think coming in, given all the guys you lost, what did you think was possible? It seems like, you look at it now, it looks pretty good. But, what did you need to kind of shore up? What were you worried about? What did you need to fix to kind of get you guys playing back at a high level?
Well, I think it all starts in the off season in the weight room, and the strength and conditioning program that we put forth for the kids. We've got a lot of guys that participated in that. So that's the start of things. Obviously you got to, replace a ton of guys that were on a championship football team. So that's never easy to do. But, when you get guys buying into what we're doing, and you get guys who are doing the right things in the classroom and in the hallways, it makes the job a little easier. I think after getting a taste of a championship, I think that a lot of the kids are motivated to I want to be in that same position again. So the motivation wasn't a factor. We got a lot of young guys that stepped up. I played 2 inside linebackers and they're fantastic for us. Zakai Moore and Donald Highsmith. Zakai's a junior and Donald's only a sophomore. I mean, so those guys stepped up immensely. Zakai had 16 tackles and interception against Darien. Set us up a great field position for a score after that interception. And like you guys mentioned, like JoJo Gonzalez, he's dynamic. He factors in for us on all three phases of the game: offense, defense, and special teams. He's super valuable. So I think comparing to last year to this year, it's hard to do. But what we have though going for us, and I know Pete, you've seen it at the game, and we got a ton of team speed. We're fast. We've got guys who can run. So yeah, it's fun trying to get those guys the football in space and letting them go and watching them fly to the football and getting 11 hats there. It's starting to come together in terms of, the kids really caring about each other and wanting to play for each other. I'm listening to them before the starts of the games or during practice. The conversation, I told them this the other day in film, their conversations are exceptional. They're talking about different route concepts. They're talking about, coverages and, hey, where am I supposed to be here? I think when you get kids that have those kind of conversations, during their downtimes, like, we're going to be successful. So I'm just proud of those guys for keeping doing that. The thing is now is, it doesn't get any easier for us. I know Hall's win-loss record doesn't look great. They've been all three of those games they were in it. They're a tough team. It doesn't get easier playing in the tier one, playing against those double L schools, but it's fun. We want to be in this position. We want to be in tier one. You want to play the best of the best. It's going to get us ready for the postseason. And yeah, just taking it one day at a time and trying to enjoy it.
You like the way this thing is set up, though, or the CCC with the new tier system, kind of like the SEC does. And yeah, you guys kind of thrive with that. It sounds like you like it.
Well, there's no choice. We
he likes it now because it worked out last year.
Right.
You didn't like it after week one, Southington, I'm sure.
Right. Does it make sense? Not really, but it is what it is. Like, we're an L school, playing against all double L schools, like the big issue for Maloney is that we don't have great depth, we've got, about 50 guys in the team. Obviously not all 50 play, but, from surviving from week to week and battling the injury bug and getting guys healthy, like that's a huge part of the job, and getting them rehabbed and healthy enough to be able to play on the next Friday is a hard task, especially going against those double L schools. So it is what it is. Like, we got to play who we got to play, and we can't control those things. So we got to, try to take it to those teams and be healthy as we can going into those Friday night games.
You spoke about JoJo, and he was a part of the state championship winning team last year, but there was a lot of other guys, up there. What has he done to, maybe take from what he learned last year and become a vocal leader on this group? You mentioned he does it at all three facets of the game, but what have you seen in him in his step to becoming, a leader on this team?
Yeah. And he's embarked on that leadership role for sure for us. It all started in the wintertime after that, when we got back into the weight room, he grinded hard and he put on some muscle. He added about 15, 20 pounds to himself to make himself a little more durable. He became more explosive. He got faster, had an exceptional baseball season, still lifted throughout that baseball season, went to the state championship in baseball. So like, you got a kid who's been a part of championship teams. He knows what it's like. He's a fierce competitor. And the best part about him is you watch him in practice. He's treating it like a Friday night game. He's diving for balls all over the field. Like, sometimes we're trying to, get him to calm down a little bit, even though, we love that stuff, but, we got to take care of him because he's such a large part of the team. And now he's embraced that vocal leadership role, which is great. And he got elected one of our captains because of that. And he's been terrific for us. I want more from him though. Like, he's just scratching the surface. Like, we want to get him the football a little bit more. Like, we got some things up our sleeves that, we want to, get him more involved in. And so he's got to get in great shape because we're going to grind him all three ways: special teams, offense, defense. So a lot's on his shoulders. He's got to keep going.
Yeah. He cramped up one drive. He cramped up on D, came off, was not happy, visibly just not happy, getting stressed out. Someone's yelling for mustard. He ate a banana. All of a sudden your defense holds and he just throws his helmet on, goes sprinting out to punt return. I don't even know if he was like not cramping or not. And he takes the punt all the way down to the 1 yard line. And I was like, that would have been the story right there. He was laying on the floor 3 seconds earlier, and now he's, thought he'd be in the end zone. But, he's a guy, his name doesn't show up in the box score, right? He didn't score a touchdown, but he did so many different things in that game that, like, just for me, he was like the guy that night on Friday. And that's just me selfishly saying,
Yeah, I agree. Tough kid to be able to, help his team in duress like he did. He knew we needed him. You see, that return was huge, obviously, for us. That sparked us. Obviously, we were able to get into the end zone after that. He's dynamic. And then the other things too is like he's a great stock blocker too. Like one of our better guys in the perimeter that likes to, block for his buddies. I think that's important. JoJo wants to play in college, so JoJo is taking his game very serious and really is, fine tune his skills and is taking those next steps to become a good college football player. I had the privilege to play with his uncle Pito. I don't know if you remember him, Pete. He played with me. We were receivers at Platt together, graduated together. He went on to WestCon. He broke every Division III record up there. Tremendous athlete. It's like literally watching they're like little clones, even though it's not his father. They're like spitting images of each other. Fast, twitchy, tough individuals. He's got some good family, lineage as far as football goes. So just excited to coach a kid like him and seeing what he could do now down the stretch here as we continue.
How about your kid? How about Valentine, your quarterback? Now, remember you had Angel, right? I'm sorry, what's that?
I love Valentine.
Yeah, we
best.
had Angel last few years. He kind of built helping you guys. He was like one of those faces. It was like part of the guys who built the program up. And then now him and a bunch of guys are gone, and then they got this whole new cast going in. How about the way he's played so far?
Man, can't say enough good things about him. You got Angel, who was a 3-year starter for us. I don't think anyone expected, other than the guys within the locker room, thought Kyle was going to come on to the scene and do what he's been doing. Obviously he's an undersized kid as a quarterback. It is what it is. We talk about that all the time with him. Doesn't define you as a person or as a player. Kyle is what I call a program kid. He bought into the system and the program for the last 4 years as a freshman, sophomore, junior, played JV his sophomore, junior year, successful there. And then now it's his time. It's one of those things that, when you get a program rolling, it's those guys that just want to step in and fill the roles that are missing. And he's done a great job with that. He's dedicated himself to Maloney football in the off season and good baseball player, so again, another kid who's been to another championship game. He's poised, he's confident, he's easy, well coached as far as, he listens to everything. So he's very coachable and great kid. He's, I'm wishing him nothing but success because he's one of those kids as a coach that you look at and you're like, he's, you're happy for him because he does all the right things.
He self-proclaimed himself the best 5'5" quarterback in the state. He self-proclaimed it.
Hey, what are you?
I couldn't argue. I couldn't argue against him.
No, you can't. If that's what makes him taller and more confident, hey, and he backs it up on the field, we can't argue with it, right?
He might be the only 5'5" quarterback in Connecticut.
Yeah. Probably.
Did you put him? Do you list him as 5'5" on the roster?
I think I lifted him smaller, actually. I thought it was 5'4" I had him on the roster. Let teams sleep
cleats.
on him.
He was wearing cleats.
Well, yeah, usually if a kid's about 5'6", they usually bump him up a couple inches. Like 5'8", he's 5'8".
That's what I did on my new license. I'm 5'9".
Yeah. I do that all the time. I'm 5'8". Yeah, right, sure. But then you have Boganski, who was just the one guy when you talk about Maloney football 2022. He's the guy returning. He's the guy, and how does he embrace that role and has he become a leader for the program right now?
Yeah, Josh is a good running back, obviously, for us. He had a great year last year as a junior, kind of came on the scene where, we didn't have those high expectations, I don't think, for him initially, but he came onto the practice field and was just an absolute worker. And that's what really got him a lot of the reps, in the, last season. And then he'll tell you too, like last year we had an exceptional offensive line. Josh was very lucky to run behind the line that we had, create a lot of holes for him. Josh was very good at getting downhill, finding the right gaps, falling forward, good ball security, never put the ball on the ground. Now he shaped his game where, he's able to put that foot in the ground instead of like, doubling over on the ball. He's going to be able to take some of those 10-yard gains, maybe now and turn them into 25, 30-yard gains, and then possibly break them, long for TDs. So yeah, we're relying on him. I mean, he's got the experience. He's, he ran, a ton for us, obviously last year. We got to keep riding him and his expertise as far as, playing in big games and playing in the colder weather coming up. I think that's going to, be key for us. So yeah, he's got to step up and help us out and be a great leader for us, on the field and in the classroom.
So a couple things here, Coach. First, you beat Darien, right? And that's great. Then your buddy Mike Drury goes down there. He knocks off number one. They get number one votes. All these teams in the top 10 poll get number one votes. Where's Maloney's number one vote? Where'd it go? No love for the Spartans after their biggest win in years. One of the biggest wins. What do you guys say to the voters out there? No love at all. Now, granted,
I didn't even see it yet. Fill me in. Where are we now?
Oh, you jumped a spot. You're 4 now, 4. But 16's got number one votes. The only one team in the top 6 or whatever it was Maloney. No number one votes. Coach, what do you got to do around here to get a little love, huh?
I think those voters are spot on. We don't deserve any number one votes. Yeah, I think that, we're still, a little bit of ways from that. And I think that's a good thing because we want that motivation. If you watched our game, Friday, we did some things offensively that obviously we wish we could have had back, that we weren't clicking on all cylinders there offensively. We dropped a lot of balls. We missed a lot of opportunities. So we got to get better. Obviously, we're not playing championship level football right now. I think we will, because we're going to a program that wants to get better every day. Last year we struggled early on and we got better each practice. And that's what we're going to do today. Like, the kids know that it's not going to be a fun day today. It's going to be a hard practice today. We're going to get after them and we're going to, go back down some basic and fundamentals and stuff. And that's the only way we know how to get better. As far as like the polls and stuff go, like we, good or bad, like we're going to use this motivation either way, pick against us. Great. We're going to use that, for motivation. If you pick us, we'll be happy, I guess. I mean, but yeah, as far as the standings go, there's only there's one poll that matters, and that's the end of the year, so if we're in that top, at the end of the year, that's all we matter. That's all we care about.
Yeah. Go ahead. You got Pete.
Did, so after you guys win Friday, did you text, Mike? He was obviously on the show last week for the listeners, but did you text Mike Drury or did he text you on Friday night? Like, hey, any words of wisdom as we head down there?
I spoke to Mike almost every day. Mike's a really good friend of mine. Mike's is just a great person. He's was a college roommate of mine. I coached with him together at Southington. Like, we're, our wives are good friends. Our kids are friends, so we talk all the time. We're always piggybacking ideas off each other. He texted me something before the game to fire me up. We talked on the bus ride going back. I told him, I told you I was going to show you how to beat Darien. He laughed. But we knew, like, going into, his game the next day, I was obviously going to be a huge game. I told him, make sure you leave early enough time to allow yourself to warm up. He obviously didn't listen to me about that.
Nope.
Because what did they only have about 25 minutes.
25 minutes to warm up. Yeah,
that's crazy. And then they spotted him 21 points. I mean, I don't know, but listen, Mike, you want to talk about, a gutsy call on that 2-point play, for him to call timeout and then bring the offense back on the field. I mean, that's awesome. Like, kudos to him. I'm sure his father was the brains behind the operation, telling him what to do, but that's okay because Chuck's a legend and he should listen to Chuck. So yeah, Mike's got it rolling. Looking forward to seeing him on the 4th. I'm hoping he comes to the game this time because last year when we played, he didn't come. He was sick supposedly. So I'll make sure when he comes to Falcon, we're gonna have extra toilet paper, tissues, whatever he needs, Gatorade, water, to make sure he's out there. So I missed him last time. It just didn't feel the same, So yeah.
I thought I was at that game. I thought you were lying to me. When I got there, I was like, hey, Kev, like, we're talking. I'm like, where's Mike? And you're like, oh, he's not coming. Oh, Kevin's being funny. No, he's actually not coming. But yeah, speaking of the bus ride, I need you to either prove a rumor or debunk a rumor. I heard a rumor that Maloney was going to drive down and coach buses on Friday, but you were like, nah, I want the yellow school bus.
Yeah. Yeah. So listen, first of all, we've got the most supportive administration staff in Meriden, like Mark Benigni and Mike Grove and Lou Bronk and Dan Crispino, all those guys at this, the superintendent level, the Board of Education. That could be a whole nother meat grinder story about the support that we get, for football, the whole thing with COVID, how they helped us play. And, like those guys are super supportive. They called me and said, hey, we're going to get you 2 coach buses. My mindset was, we don't want the kids to be too comfortable. I want to keep things kind of consistent and the same, put them on the yellow school bus. We're tough, hard-nosed team. Let's go down there and beat them in the yellow school buses. And, I said, hey, maybe we could take the coach buses back. They said, hey, to and from. So we had to
I don't know if you needed a bus back, Coach. I think you guys flew home. One thing that I'd love to ask you is here, and I know you've brought it up a few times, Pete and everything, and I think we might run a story on it. But what's it like building a powerhouse at Maloney of all schools? You being a Platte guy.
Oof. That's instead of a meat grinder episode, I could write a novel about that. Man, that's been tough.
Give me the summary of it. I mean, you must. Did they give you crap at Kayla Mays or what's the story?
Big Kayla Mays Maloney fans.
Yeah,
that I know.
Kayla May is on. We're actually going there for pregame dinner on Thursday. We do a pregame dinner every Thursday. This week's got Kayla Mays. He's an East Side guy. He's a Maloney guy, so he's
okay.
Reporter.
That's my bad.
Football. But as far as here's my thing with it. Obviously there weren't people too happy that I took the Maloney job. It is what it is. I don't really pay attention to what people think about me. If I did, then, I probably would hate myself because I'm sure there's a lot of negative, things that people say about me. It is what it is. I'm here because I want to help kids and develop young athletes. It could have been at Platte or Maloney. I'm here at Maloney. I love being here and working here. I'm a special education teacher. So that's what it's really about. It's just unfortunate, obviously, that, I was from Platte and now I'm coaching at Maloney. So, some of my closer friends who I graduated and played with, they think it's awesome and cool. Obviously there's other people who I've lost some friendships and relationships with.
Wow.
You are the all-time points leader for Platte, correct?
No, I'm in the top 5.
Oh, okay.
I think, but you know what though? If you went back and looked at it, I think they expunged my name from the record books. So it looks like I never played there. No, I'm joking. Listen, those guys over at Platte, let me be the first to say, and I'll say this, is that Jason Bruin, Birdie Nelson, Brian Frederick, my brother, you talk about dedicated staff and guys who've been there and done the right things and are good for kids. Those guys are great, obviously, for the kids. And they've done a great job over the years at Platte. They dedicated, 19, 20 years there. So, I mean, they do a good job. It's unfortunate, that they're in the same town as us. And right now they're struggling and we're shining, but, we hope they win every game, obviously, because we want to play them on Thanksgiving and beat them and take all their playoff points. But yeah, we rooting for them, obviously. Like, that's my alma mater. I respect and admire what those coaches have done for the program. And we're, at the end of the day, we're all from Meriden. We want what's best for the Meriden kid. And then obviously on Thanksgiving, we want to beat each other and that's, that's the competitiveness in all of us. And, it is what it is.
It's one of the few annually competitive Thanksgiving Day games. Like, it's still great. Like, there's other games that have fizzled out over time, but Maloney, Platte, and Star Bowl, I mean, I haven't gone personally. I got to change that soon. But a few years ago, when one beat, who beat who? You beat them and they beat you?
Platte beat Maloney to get into the playoffs, and Maloney beat the semifinals.
And then you guys beat them back. I mean, what's better than that? That's what football's about. One team gets the one up and the other team gets them back the next year. That's what this is all about. That's what football is, man, to me.
I've been at a lot of Stoddard Bowls in the last couple of years.
Yeah, they're always good. Every time I look up, I'm like, oh my God, the game's a barn burner. What's the key to winning that game, Coach?
I'm hoping Connecticut keeps the Thanksgiving tradition going with some of the football stuff. There's nothing better than a Thanksgiving Day football game. That's our bell.
It's all right. I guess
there's nothing better than a Thanksgiving Day football game. I mean, it's just a great atmosphere for the kids to play in. You'll always remember that day in that game. You throw the records out the book, like they say. and then, like I said, it's been fun. It's been competitive. They did beat us that year. I think the last time we lost to them in the Thanksgiving was 2019. Yeah. They saved the double tight double wing for us. I guess they saw us in one of our game scrimmages. We didn't do so well. Then I guess they practiced it all year long, and then they popped out Thanksgiving, and yeah, they snuck us with a victory there. But yeah, it happens, they got a good program. They got good athletes over there. They're well coached. It's good. It's going to happen,
I share your sentiment on Thanksgiving. I think we can make that happen. I know they tried to make it happen here, and it kept it. I mean, that's why we're playing 6, because they wanted to keep Thanksgiving. And you and Tom Brock from Ansoni could probably go bowling and have a whole big discussion about that. He loves it too. He said, the last thing I want is us to get away from Thanksgiving. You guys have got to be out of your minds to get rid of that.
It's a great thing for the families too. Even my own personal family, my grandmother, God rest her soul. She was a couple of years before she passed. She was the honorary. She did the coin toss, and I'll never forget. I slipped her the double-sided coin before the game, and she hooked us up, and we won the toss. And I always think about my grandma.
Yeah. Family and football. That's what that day's about. Family and football for those departed or those who are with us. And I think that's great. Coach, I mean, you guys obviously got a big road ahead. You got a haul this week. And they're, like you said, they were good last year. They were competitive this year. Tough. You got Bristol Central. You got Connor, which is playing well. Then you obviously Southern. It's a tough road, and it's going to be no slouch. But just your quick thoughts on your how you guys are going to manage the rest of this season, and then well, thank you for your time.
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, it's a grind of a season. We've got to play some tough schools. We're going to take it 1 week at a time. Hall's very talented. Their quarterback, exceptional player, tough, big runner, accurate with the football. They got a really good receiver who catches the ball and runs really well. It's definitely going to pose a challenge for us. So we're just not. I don't even know who we play after Hall, to be honest with you. We're playing Hall this week and
Newington.
Looking forward to that. Is it Newington? Oh, great.
Yeah, they're good too. They're on the road all these games after Hall. Road. I mean, before.
Yeah, but then you finish at 3 games at Falcon, but you're the road team on Thanksgiving.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Yep. See, you guys know more about that than me. I told you, we take it literally a day to a game at a time.
Well, that's where we come in. We're the ones who make a big deal of everything else.
Yes. Yeah.
I already got that November 4th game circled.
Yeah,
I'm going to go to Kayla Mays early. I'm going to go get my steamed cheeseburger, and then I'm going to make my way to Falcon.
Has Ted's put in with anybody, or do they kind of stay neutral? What are they? They black guys?
I'm not sure. To be honest, we do someone's business with Kayla May. We kind of just been sticking with him. They haven't really reached out, but Kevin's a great guy, supporter. Went to Maloney. It's just literally minutes from our school. So yeah, we continue supporting. He has a helmet, one of our helmets in his little shop there. So yeah, we just appreciate him and all his love and support.
I was there in the summer at some point. It was
2018
great.
When you guys were meeting in the semifinals. I drove around Meriden and I interviewed like a bunch of people around the city heading into that final. Like I ran down the mayor at his job. I got Benigni. I got a barber and a guy getting a haircut. And I went to Ted's because I went to Kayla Mays, but they were closed. They were renovating. And I went to Ted's and I asked him, I go, who do you think is going to win? Like, who are you picking? And the owner, which I don't think his name is Ted, but the owner was like, oh, we're just supporting both teams.
Right. I think they're trying to stay neutral.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pick sides on that one. It's a good try, but we're not going to go down that road.
But I did know that answer.
There you go. All right, Coach, thank you. It sounds like still got some business to take care of over at school. You got practice and everything. So we appreciate you giving us a little time here. You finally made it. You finally made it. Now you got to stay on top, right? Now you got to stay on top. You got to keep playing at a high level. No turning back now, right?
Appreciate you guys. Really, I really do, for having me on the show and for you guys to continue to cover high school sports like you guys do. And to promote these athletes and it's just a special thing. So we appreciate you guys for everything. And I'm glad I could have, made it on the show. Like I said, I feel like I've now made it as a high school football coach, officially on the meat grinder. Yeah. You guys send me like a little plaque with my head on it.
Yeah.
Now, with the date. All right. I'll look out for it in the mail.
Yeah. We're like, have we had this guy on yet? We got to try give everybody a little bit of love. We'll have to do that.
Back-to-back CCC coaches too. Wow.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
Over there, I can't believe it.
You win some state championships, you start getting a lot of love very quickly. You'll
the
see.
CCC deserves it. They turned the world upside down, like I predicted.
You predicted it, Pete.
Like
you
I
predicted
did.
it.
Like
Pete
I
had a
did.
lot of love.
Well,
All right,
I always
Coach.
pick Maloney now because I get yelled at and they scare me.
Yeah. All right, Coach. We'll see you later. Good luck with Hall. And we'll see you down the road, I'm sure. Great job so far.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you guys. Thank you again.
It's Kevin Frederick, and I'm glad we finally got him on. And maybe we missed out on him. We didn't really do coaches interviews at the end of last season. He probably would have been on, but good to have him on. And he seemed really excited. And I'm happy for him. I'm happy. That's a big win. You go down there, the CCC shows up, and I don't know about Darien though, Pete. It's going to be a long road back for them.
Like Kevin said, it is what it is. And, it's a great win for that program. It's a great win for that program. And I've been fortunate enough, with my time at the Record Journal and now at Game Time to kind of watch them rise from just getting into the playoffs, which was a big deal when it happened, to winning a playoff game, to getting to the finals, then losing, then getting to the semis, then going to the finals and winning. And now a huge win at Darien. It's been incredible to see. I did shout him out on the interview, but I want to shout him out again. Quarterback Valentine, he is just a beaut. I mean, this kid, he came right up to me at the end of the game and he's like, "I'm just letting you know, I'm the best 5'5" quarterback in the state." And I was like, you know what, dude, you are 100% right. I mean, he was a kid, and we didn't really get into it on the interview. He was with the headset last year, calling out the plays to Angel. When Angel wasn't in, they had Austin Studley, I believe his name was. He was the backup. He didn't play at all last year. He looked good, man. He threw some really, really good deep balls. Maloney was faster. They had the speed. They were running past Darien defenders. And he hooked up with his receivers on some big plays. And Maloney's dangerous. I think that that November 4th date against Southington is going to be a must be at.
That's down the road now. Let's take a look at the games for this week we need to watch. North Branford, they come back from their first opening loss to Valley Regional, who we'll get to. They won again too, but we'll get to Valley very shortly. But North Branford now kind of on the redemption tour. They're going to play Cromwell Portland with their first big test. They're 3-0. They haven't played anyone great yet. Now North Branford comes in. That should be a fascinating game. In another game, SMSA, your boy at Ellington. Yeah, your boys at Ellington, 3-0 versus 3-0 at Friday at 6:30 p.m. Staples at Trumbull, Petrocchio Bowl 2. I saw our guys there, all the Trumbull guys, talking to us a bit, and and I'm like, guys, did you play them last year? What happened? And they were like, yeah, you don't remember? I threw an interception for a touchdown.
God.
So now they get a chance to get a little bit of redemption. I also did a great Mars Petrocchio impression for them. I thought it was
really,
and they said I nailed it. Yeah. Yeah.
When we have Mars on the show, you're gonna have to do it.
Yeah. Speaking of, it is what it is. It is what it is. Fairfield Prep plays at Hamden. Now we get to know a little bit more about Hamden. I believe now Fairfield Prep trying to look to come back. Shelton now 3-0 goes to North Haven 2-1, bouncing back after their Notre Dame loss. They play at the North Haven Middle School field, not Vanacore, just across the street from them. In that SEC division, tier 1, game, Berlin, a team we haven't really talked about, at Bloomfield now. Bloomfield goes right from the frying pan into the fire. They play a pretty good Berlin team, which is 3-0. Han, which is really now back-to-back, Pete. Back-to-back shutout losses. I don't know. I can't figure out the last time a Han was shut out back-to-back. Have you?
Don't think it's ever happened.
So
I went through everything on their website, and I don't think it's ever happened. The last time they were shut out twice in the season was 1999.
Yeah. In fairness to Han, they didn't have the schedule they had back then that they do now. And now they got Cheshire 3-0 at their place at the McClary complex. So rolling down a little bit, Brantford 2-1 faces Law 3-0 in a pretty big SEC tier 3 game. Law hasn't really played anybody yet, and neither's their quarterback. He's pretty good, but they really have not played anybody. I think the teams they've played so far, I think they're 1 win between them, or 2 wins at the most.
No wins. No
at
wins
all.
between them. Yep.
And Brantford comes in, reeling a little bit after their Guilford loss 2 weeks ago. And then finally, Tolland at East Catholic. So it's going to be not as big a week, but certainly some good games.
Interesting matchups. I mean, the Trumbull Staples game is one that really stands out to me that I think I'm going to be going to on Friday, or at least I hope to, because I just think that's such a great game. And I think for Trumbull, nearby. It's huge. And I live nearby. But for Trumbull, I think it's just such a huge game, right? They've kind of not had an easy road. You know, that Massac game was wild. They beat up West Hill and beat up East Hartford. So now it's like, here we go. Like, they're going to start jumping into that FCX schedule. They got Staples. Then they got Greenwich at the end of about a month from now. Then, Ridgefield in November, and then St. Joe's in Thanksgiving. Like, all right, if Trumbull is getting first place votes and Trumbull being voted in the top 10, you got to go out and win the Staples game first. The Bloomfield Berlin game is great. I mean, those teams always play well when they play each other. They're always, heated battles, to put it nicely. Cromwell Portland, you mentioned it. I mean, this is a team that won a state title a year ago, and this is an up and coming North Branford team. And Tommy Hansen is a baller. He's only a sophomore. He could freaking play. Over in the NVL, we got, Waterbury Career Academy. They're 3-0. And they're facing off against Tom Leegee and Holy Cross.
Leegee ran 36 times for 242 yards. He scored 3 of his team's 4 touchdowns. 28-21 over Seymour. That's back-to-back losses for Seymour, by the way. But Holy Cross shaping up to be one of Ansonia's prime rivals, maybe. Well, definitely their prime rival.
Potentially,
heading into Thanksgiving, but the team before Thanksgiving, before Knocktown.
Barlow, Notre Dame, Fairfield. I think it's a great small SWC matchup. Notre Dame, Fairfield got back in the win column after the Massac game. Barlow, you were there. You saw them go up and beat Wethersfield. It's not just a Danny Shaben show, right? They got dudes, right? Or studs. What did he call them? He said they got studs.
A lot of studs on this team. Scott Romano.
But that one's a really good one. Friday night at Sacred Heart. I mean, Notre Dame, Fairfield is a really talented team. This school, Barlow, is kind of similar in size, a little bit bigger. So I think that's a great SWC matchup.
One of the games we did not mention here is going to be played Saturday night, 7 o'clock, way up in Avon. It's Avon Old Farms plays host to Loomis Chaffee in a battle of premier prep school teams from the Founders League. Last year, Loomis beat them in a wild game, 35-26, and they both went on to win NEPSAC Bowl championships. By all counts, they're going to be, Pete, about 18 future Division I FCS, FBS players, including a few guys that Nick Saban has offered. So you have a lot of major recruits up there in this showdown. So it should be fascinating. I will certainly be there for that one. So, but that's it for this week. I'm still kind of getting into the season here, still kind of relaxing after last week. It's pretty wild, but now I think we have we've swept away last year. Now we're into this year with all the things that we thought we knew at the beginning of the year. We finally can say after 3 weeks we did anything, and it's going to be fun finding out what happens next after this.
Yeah, I mean, we're really diving into conference play right now, and that is exciting when we get some pretty good matchups. And I think there are a couple this week. I think a couple the next week after. But this is it. I think now we're hitting the ground running. We're done. I think teams are done feeling each other out and figuring out who's what. And I think we're just going to go. Just go.
Let's go then. So for Pete McGuire, I'm Patrick Bully. This has been the Meat Grinder on GameTimeCT.
Love you all.